spike in COVID-19 cases. We also had a situation where, according to the Department of Commerce, there was also a sharp spike in the GNP between the second and third quarters of the year. So some good news, some bad news for the president. What's that going to mean going into Election Day? What wins, the concern about the pandemic or the fact that the president still gets pretty good marks for handling the economy?
Well, that's a great question, Brad. And I think we have to go back and ask, why does he get those good marks? Right? Because
let's do, because that's one of the most perplexing things to me with the economy in such bad shape. Why they still give him credit?
Right. There's a lot going on with that. And first of all, I would say that I blame the corporate media for that and this old disproven narrative that Republicans handle the economy better, as well as focusing on markets instead of people. And, look at it. In point of fact, Trump was tanking the Obama economy he inherited even before the coronavirus. And I have all this data about what was going on in December 2019 and January 2020 before the coronavirus hit. And we were already having a tightening of the economy. We had layoffs in manufacturing. Manufacturing was in a recession. A lot of that impacted by Trump's trade war with China. There were layoffs in other areas, construction, education, food services. So, 2020, January, economy is already tightening. Why is he getting credit for that? At the time, he was blaming the feds for this tightening and for not having the growth that he promised. He also added $2.8 trillion to the national debt. So, stock markets hit record levels under him pre-coronavirus. But people lost health insurance. They were lacking health insurance by nearly 2 million. So it's about where you're looking, right? Are you looking at the people or are you looking at the markets when you say things are great for him? And why? What's the investment with corporate media? They want to be deregulated, and Republicans tend to do that. And I think it's easy to go with that narrative that things will be better for big business under Republicans. And so that's what we're all told. And it's not true. So.
Okay. Our guest in this half hour is Sarah Jones, editor-in-chief of Politicus. We've been discussing, what else? Election day tomorrow, so we've been discussing the presidential race. We'll be continuing our discussion with Sarah with our radio listeners in just a minute.
Show.com.
Welcome back to our radio listeners with more of Deadline DC with Brad Hannon. We're obviously discussing Election Day, the presidential election, which is only a day away, although it seems like it'll probably be an eternity until we actually know what happened, sadly. Our guest is Sarah Jones, editor-in-chief of Politicus. Let's go back and let's try something else. Besides the presidential race, there's a big battle for the U.S. Senate. I think most handicappers, from what I can see, believe that the Democrats will end up with a majority control of the U.S. Senate after the election. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows how big of a majority it will be. It seems to me there are at least a few Republicans who are probably in very bad shape. Martha McSally, Cory Gardner in Colorado, Susan Collins in Maine, and there's probably at least one Democrat who is also in pretty tough shape. That would be Doug Jones in Alabama. Sarah, what do you think is going to happen in the U.S. Senate?
Well, I think you laid it out really well. I mean, I think that it looks like I want to preface this also by saying that we have a lot of 2016 PTSD going on when it comes to polls and all the data before
Yes, we
elections.
do.
So I know people are really turned off by that right now. It all depends on turnout. So let's just, got to keep that in mind, and everybody needs to keep voting. But it does look like Democrats are likely to win back the majority. And as you pointed out, question is how big? Will they net 3 seats with the Biden victory, have a 50-50 split with Harris breaking the ties? The best guess at the Senate when all is said and done, including the Georgia potential runoff in Georgia, it could exactly flip from 53-47 Republican to 53-47 Democratic. So Democrats could win as many as 7 seats. And as you pointed out, Doug Jones may be the loss there in Alabama. But Democrats have run some excellent candidates this cycle. And I think they're also going to be helped by Biden's decency and competency at the top of the ticket. Because when you have people who vote, straight down, that's going to, the only trickle down that's real, possibly. So,
Yep.
Yeah, I think it looks good. It always baffles me that things are this tight when this person has been so damaging to our country and so corrupt, and spending all of his time helping himself and letting Americans die from the coronavirus unnecessarily. So I don't understand that, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I ask it all the time, especially in the last few days. I watch and listen to Trump on the campaign stump, and he's behaving like an idiot. He says all these things that are completely irrational and untruthful. But we're still in a real presidential race here. What does it say about America that, Donald Trump, after an incredibly failed presidency, still has a shot to win this thing?
I think it says that we have a lot of work to do to rebuild our democracy. And I think that it starts with, our media and how we inform people about what's going on instead of doing this he said, she said thing. And I think the media has done a good job. They've tried to, meet this challenge. He has unprecedented challenge with his lies. But, when what I'm seeing happen right now is absolutely insane, will be like, well, Donald Trump said all of these, like nothing. He never touched reality, and he incited violence. He did, and he loved some neo-Nazis. But hey, Joe Biden had this gaffe where he said the wrong word. And these two things are often conflated. And I think this not helping people. I mean, you have to remember, most people work really long hours in this country, and they come home, got to take care of their family. They don't have time to sift through all this stuff. So I think they're not getting messages that are as helpful as they could be, for sure.
Well, let me ask you another question. This campaign, I mean, the president is obviously very desperate. And his supporters are very desperate, too. Let me point to a couple of things that have happened in the last couple of days that trouble me greatly. First, over the weekend, there was this incident in Texas where a group of Trump supporters in cars tried to run a Biden campaign bus off the road. And apparently some of these Trump supporters in these cars were armed. That really scary. The other thing I think is really scary is that the White House, probably as we speak, is building a new wall around the White House that is apparently impossible to scale. I don't know if they have leftover materials from the border wall that they're using or whatever.
Well, then it would fall over. So
yeah, but I mean, we seem to be on a slippery slope to the end of democracy in America as we know it. I said this a couple of weeks on the show. I hate to use the word fascist because that has all sorts of nasty, very nasty connotations. But, it seems to me that, Trump and Trump supporters are doing everything they can to discredit democracy in this country. And I'm really scared, regardless of what happens on Tuesday, tomorrow. Are we in danger in the United States? It seems to me democracy is under siege in this country like it's never been.
I think that's a really important question, and we have always prided ourselves on calming people down. I wish that I could do that today, and I can't, because I do see, Trump moving towards autocracy. I see him. He's a wannabe dictator. He's already said that he's going to have his lawyers begin on election night to fight the results if he's not winning, and he's tricked his donors into giving weekly until the certification date. So that's going to his lawyers. Basically, he's not going to accept anything except a win, and that's not democracy. And what he's got his supporters doing all over this country. I live in a Trump area, and I tell you, yes, I'm scared of any fallout. There's a big white supremacy and neo-Nazi Ku Klux Klan kind of grouping around here in the outskirts. But I just want to say that I think that what Trump is doing and the way he's behaving right now is exactly why the Russians have found him to be such a gold mine for destroying the freedom that used to make America great. He's casting doubt on elections if he doesn't win, and he wants to know everything on election night, and yet the Republicans have pushed to not count these mail-in ballots until election day. So that's like the squeeze where we're just going to, and I keep seeing him mention this about throwing out ballots and not having them counted. Yeah,
it's pretty scary. Sarah, thanks for joining us today. Our guest in this half hour has been Sarah Jones, editor-in-chief of Politicus USA. Sarah's Twitter handle is Politicus Sarah. Thank you very much, Sarah. We'll be back with more of Deadline DC after these messages.